She said it so calmly that I thought I'd misheard her. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the one we'd picked out together at a place on Danforth, 2 years ago. There was still half a cup of coffee in front of me. She had her hands wrapped around her mug, and she looked at me the way you look at someone when you've already made up your mind. "I just need some time," she said, "to figure things out with him." I set my cup down. "With him," I said. She nodded. Slowly, like she was being careful about it. "I want to be clear about something. We had been together for 4 years. We had a lease together. We had a joint account for groceries and utilities. We had talked about rings. We had talked about kids. We had spent last Christmas with her parents in Sudbury, and her mother had pulled me aside after dinner and told me she was glad her daughter had found someone solid. I had felt proud of that. I had carried that with me. And now she was sitting across from me in our kitchen, in our apartment, and she was asking me to step aside while she went back to her ex. "I just need to know," she said. "If I don't try, I'll always wonder. And if it doesn't work out," I asked. She looked at me and I could see her choosing her words. "Then I'll know. And I'll come back, and we can move forward. Completely." I remember the sound the refrigerator made. That low hum. I remember looking at the window behind her head, the one that faced out onto the alley, and I remember thinking about nothing in particular. Just the window. Just the hum. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay, I heard you." I got up and rinsed my mug in the sink. She stayed at the table. I went to the bedroom, pulled my gym bag out of the closet, and started putting things in it. She appeared in the doorway a few minutes later. "What are you doing?" "Packing." "You don't have to leave," she said. "I was going to stay with my friend for a bit while." "I'm not leaving," I said. "I'm giving you space, there's a difference." "And actually no, I take that back." I folded a shirt and put it in the bag. "You should stay. I'll go to my brother's. We should talk about this more. I think you said what you needed to say." She stood there for a moment and I kept packing. I wasn't dramatic about it. I didn't throw anything. I didn't raise my voice. I just pulled clothes off hangers and folded them neatly and put them in the bag. My charger, my toiletries, my running shoes. "I still love you," she said from the doorway. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. "I know," I said. "I believe you." I zipped the bag. "But I love myself more." My brother lived out in Mississauga, a 40-minute drive west on the 401 when traffic cooperated. Which it almost never did. He had a spare room that he used mostly for storage. Boxes of old hockey gear and some furniture from our parents' house that nobody had figured out what to do with yet. He cleared enough space for me to put down an air mattress. And I stayed there for the next 3 weeks. He didn't ask a lot of questions. That's one of the things I've always appreciated about him. He made me coffee in the morning. He had his kids leave me alone when I needed quiet. And every few nights he'd sit with me after dinner, while his wife got the kids to bed, and we'd just watch whatever was on. On the 4th night he said, "She called me." I looked at him. "My girlfriend," I said. "She called you. She wanted to know if you were okay." "What did you say?" "I said you were fine." I thought about that. That was the right answer. He turned back to the TV. I figured. She did text me a few times in those first weeks. Not long messages. Just things like "I miss you," and "I'm thinking about you," and once, "I hope you know this doesn't mean what you think it means." I read them. I didn't respond. Not because I was punishing her, I want to be clear about that. I just didn't have anything to say. She had made a choice and I had made mine. And there wasn't a lot of conversation left in the space between those two things. I called my dad around the end of the second week. He lives up near Barrie, retired, spends most of his time on the lake. Or playing cards with the same 3 guys he's known since high school. I didn't want to tell him what had happened. But I also didn't want him to hear it from someone else. He was quiet for a while after I explained. Then he said, "Are you still paying her half of the rent?" I hadn't thought about it. "I don't know. We haven't talked about that yet." "Talk about it," he said. "Don't let things drift." He wasn't wrong. I called a lawyer the following week. Not because I thought I needed one urgently. But because I wanted to understand where I stood. The lawyer, a woman I found through a colleague's recommendation, walked me through it. We weren't married, so there was no formal dissolution process. But we had a joint account, a shared lease, and some things we'd bought together that technically belonged to both of us. She told me to document what I'd contributed financially and to put things in writing. I went back to the apartment on a Saturday afternoon when I knew she'd be out. I took what was mine, the bookshelf I'd brought from my old place, my grandmother's cast iron pan, my vinyl records, the desk. I moved slowly. I looked at things. I thought about how normal all of it had seemed 2 months ago. Before I left, I stood in the kitchen for a minute. I looked at the table we'd picked out on Danforth. I left it. It felt right to leave it. 3 months went by. I won't pretend those months were easy. They weren't. I moved into my own place, in the East End, a 1-bedroom on a quiet street near the beach, and I spent a lot of time getting used to the sound of it. The quiet. The way your footsteps sound different when there's no one else there to absorb them. I went back to the gym. I started cooking properly again instead of just eating whatever was Fast. I called friends I'd let drift. I took a weekend trip to Ottawa with my brother and his family, which was chaotic and loud, and exactly what I needed. I won't say I never thought about her. That would be a lie. There were nights when I'd be watching something on my laptop and a familiar song would come on, and I'd just sit there for a moment, not watching, not listening, just sitting. But the feeling would pass. Every time, it passed a little faster than the time before. I heard through a mutual friend that things with the ex were going well, that they'd gone to Montreal together, that she seemed happy. Good, I thought. I meant it. I genuinely wanted her to be happy. I just didn't want to be the one who had to wait around to find out if she was. There's something I should tell you about my mother. She and my girlfriend had always gotten along well. Too well, maybe. They texted sometimes without me in the middle of it. My mother liked her, genuinely liked her. And I think she saw something in our relationship that she wanted to be true. So when everything fell apart, I told my mother what happened. And I was careful and calm about it, and I gave her the facts. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "But you know she loves you, right?" "I know that. She's just confused. She's young. You're both young." Mom, just think maybe giving her the space she asked for and then also walking out. I think that might have felt to her like a punishment. I let that sit. She asked me to step aside while she went back to another man, I said. I stepped aside. I didn't punish her. I just didn't wait. "I know, but, did you know?" I asked. Before she told me. "Did you know she was thinking about this?" She didn't right away. And I had my answer. "She mentioned something," my mother said finally, "a few weeks before. She called me because she didn't know what to do. And she was scared. And I told her she needed to figure out what she wanted before it was too late. I thought she'd come to her senses. I thought she just needed to talk it through." I was sitting in my car when she told me that. Parked outside my building, engine off, looking at the street. "Okay," I said. "I'm sorry, I should have said something to you I didn't want to." "I know, Mom." "Are you angry?" I thought about it honestly. "I'm not sure what I am, but I need some time before we talk again." "Okay?" She said okay. Her voice was small. I sat in the car for a while after I hung up. My mother had known. She had known, and she had said nothing to me. And she had spent those weeks watching me make plans and talk about the future, and not once had she thought to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I think there's something you should know." I called her back 2 weeks later. We talked, really talked, for the first time in a long time. She apologized without conditions. I accepted it. But I want to be honest, something shifted. The version of my mother I had believed in, the one who was always in my corner, got a little smaller that day. I love her. I always will, but I carry that differently now. 4 months after she'd asked me to step aside, she texted me again. "Can we talk? Please?" I read it while I was waiting for a meeting at work. I set my phone face down on my desk, and went into the meeting and spent an hour talking about quarterly projections. And when I came back to my desk, her message was still there. Texted back that evening, "I can talk." "What's going on?" She called. Within minutes, she sounded different, quieter, somehow, like the air had gone out of her. "It didn't work out," she said. "I'm sorry to hear that. I made a mistake, I know that now." "Okay, I miss you. I miss us. I've been thinking about everything, and I know what I want now, and what I want is you." I didn't say anything for a moment. "I know you're probably angry," she said. "I'm not angry." "Then, I'm not angry," I said again. "But I'm also not available." She went quiet. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not the same person who was sitting at that table. It means I spent 4 months building a life that I actually want to be in and I'm not. I can't put that down and go back to where we were. That's not a door I can walk through again. I'm not asking you to go back. I'm asking you to start fresh." "There's no starting fresh," I said. "There's just what happened. And what I know now. And what I know is that, when you had to choose, you didn't choose me. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying it because it's true, and I think we both need to be honest about it." She started to cry. And I'm not a hard person. I heard her crying and something in me recognized it. The way you recognize a sound from a house you used to live in. But recognition isn't the same as obligation. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. I really am. I hope things get better for you. "So that's it?" I thought about the kitchen table, the hum of the refrigerator, the gym bag on the bed. "Yeah," I said, "that's it." I hung up. I sat in my apartment, in my chair, in the quiet I'd spent months learning how to live inside. Outside my window a streetcar went by. Somebody was walking a dog on the sidewalk below. Somewhere down the street, a kid was on a bike. I thought about calling my brother. I didn't. I just sat there and let the evening happen around me. She called twice more over the next few weeks. Once I answered, once I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was long, and said things that were real and true, and would have meant everything to me 8 months earlier. I listened to it. Once. All the way through. Then, I deleted it. Her friends reached out. Then another. They were kind about it. They weren't making demands. They just wanted me to know she was struggling, that she was sorry, that she'd changed. I thanked them. I didn't ask any questions. I had nothing against them. But I also understood that whatever they were hoping I'd do, I wasn't going to do it. Her mother called me on a Tuesday afternoon. We'd always gotten along, her mother and I. She'd hugged me at Christmas and said she thought of me like a son. She had meant it, I think. I just want to ask you not to close the door completely, she said. She made a mistake. People make mistakes. I know they do, I said. You're a good man. I've always thought that. I appreciate that. So you understand that sometimes good people deserve a second chance. I do understand that, I said. But I'm not punishing her. I want you to know that. I'm not trying to make her suffer. I moved on. That's all. I moved on and I'm okay, and I think eventually she'll be okay too. She was quiet for a moment. You sound different than I expected. How did you expect me to sound? Angrier maybe. Or sadder. I was both those things, I said. For a while. We said goodbye, and she told me she hoped I'd be well, and I told her the same, and we hung up. And that was the last time I spoke to anyone from that chapter of my life. It's been just over a year now. I'm still in the East End apartment, though I've done a bit to make it feel more like mine. New shelves, some plants, a print I found at a market on Queen Street. That I've always liked more than I can explain. My brother comes over every few weeks, and we order food and watch something terrible and laugh about it. I started seeing someone a few months ago. Nothing I planned. She works in a different department at my office. And we started talking in the elevator and then talking over coffee. And then one afternoon she asked if I wanted to get dinner and I said yes. It's easy in a way I had forgotten. Things could be easy. I'm not projecting onto it. I'm not in a rush. I'm just showing up honestly, and seeing what happens. I think about my ex sometimes, less than I used to. The feeling attached to her memory is quieter now. Not quite neutral, but close. I don't hate her. I don't hold what she did against her anymore. Not actively. She was someone who didn't know what she wanted until she lost it, and that's not a crime. It's just human. The part that still catches me, every now and then, is my mother. Not in a bitter way, just in a way that reminds me that you can love someone completely. And still be surprised by them. There's a cafe near my apartment that I started going to on Saturday mornings. It's small. It gets crowded. They play music loud enough that you can't really have a conversation. I sit in the corner, drink my coffee, read whatever book I'm in the middle of. Nobody knows me there. Nobody asks me anything. I don't need much more than that. I was happy. Not loudly. Not in any way I could have pointed at and named in the middle of it. But looking back, across everything that happened, I can see it clearly. I was happy, and I had done that myself.